I actually think hip hop has been a net negative. I think it's done more harm than it's done good. So 50 years of hip hop, I actually wanted to react to this video a while ago, but I had to sit back and really gather my thoughts on how I felt about this. So we're gonna react to Dr. Umar. He debates that 50 years of hip hop has not done anything for black people. I have my thoughts. I've had months to gather what I feel about this, but let's get into the video first.
The sum benefit to black people of 50 years of hip hop.
Outside of economic
He says, what has been the sum benefit of hip hop to black people?
advancement,
What was the economic advancement of black America because of
it's
hip
our
hop?
it's their biggest export. Everybody in the black community.
I'm gonna ask you again.
Yes, sir.
How did black America benefit from 50 years of hip hop? And don't give me individual rappers. That's called tokenism and bourgeoisie.
I won't give you tokenism. I will give you
benefited as a people from hip hop.
And to answer that question, I would say yes. Black people have benefited from hip hop. And he said, Dr. Umar, he says, don't give me individuals, but you have to give individuals because, I mean, individuals have become rich off of hip hop. They've been able to start their own businesses under hip hop. For instance, Birdman, he's a black man. He's been in hip hop, and because of him, he was able to get his brother Slim into it, or maybe it was vice versa. Maybe it was Slim first. But regardless, his brothers are into it. Due to his success, he was able to put Wayne on, Lil Wayne. Due to Wayne, Wayne was able to put Tyga, Nicki Minaj, Drake on. So from one individual can come a family tree of success.
advancements in fashion.
How? Fashion? That's
No,
nothing.
you if
Advancement in
nah,
fashion?
I can't let you have that.
Fashion is
That
not
one I can't let you
We
have
don't
that.
control fashion.
We don't control fashion, but through hip hop, there has been black people who have benefited from fashion. This is just facts. Sean John, Rockaware, Yeezy. This is facts.
One that's able
Don
to
C.
make money. Any black person that's able to make a
Virgil.
living in an industry.
Bro, how many is that? The labels that
It's
people
way
wear
more
is
now.
white people labels.
It's way more now
What is
than
it?
what was going on.
Like, but that's not a real benefit.
I would disagree.
How we?
I think Dr. Umar is he's not approaching this conversation, like he's approaching it in bad faith because he already has his opinion. But there are black people who have benefited from fashion through hip hop. And no, every clothing line that black people wear is not from white people. This is this whole Pan-African white versus black, as if there's a white people and there's black people, but there's a lot of in between. For instance, the Hundreds clothing line is the Asian guy who created that. But black people do wear black clothing brands that come from hip hop, such as Off-White, R.I.P. Virgil, Yeezy, Kanye West. And if you want to take it back 20 years, Fat Farm, Baby Fat, even Nelly had, was it Averex that Nelly had? Or Academics or something like that.
How
would
is
disagree.
Black America benefiting from fashion? What are we talking
Any
about?
investment in fashion
How
for black
do we benefit
people,
from fashion, bro?
What-
Yeah.
So
you're missing what I'm saying.
Umar has to, it's incumbent upon Dr. Umar by what does he mean by benefit? And he also says, what is the sum benefit? So the sum, when I hear him say sum benefit, I think that means net benefit, like all the good versus all the bad. But it's incumbent upon Dr. Umar to explain, what does benefit mean to you? Because I can name you people who have got rich off fashion, created companies, black companies, who have benefited as a result of hip hop. But he doesn't accept this, so it's incumbent of him to explain what he means.
If hip hop, when hip hop comes, hip hop is an entire culture. Our fashion, the way we walk, the way we
How
talk.
is that a benefit to black America?
Because now people who didn't have access to jobs in the fashion, black people specifically, who didn't have access to jobs before the explosion of hip hop, 50 years
these
ago.
white companies that make billions of dollars.
Forget the
off
white
of
companies.
our-
I'm talking about black-owned companies
Like
that have come.
who? How many?
Fubu, Carl Kanai.
So yeah, Umar, I mean, he can do the theatrics, but this is true. Fubu, Karkanai, these are black people and black families who have benefited. So Umar needs to say, what's acceptable as a benefit to him?
I'm getting out of here.
what?
Who the fuck wearing Fubu and Carl Kanai in 2024?
You said in 50.
Well, he says, he's right. Umar said in 50 years. So yes, he can't say what in 50 years, how has hip hop benefited black people. Then they name something from 20 years ago, Fat Farm, Fubu, and then he disqualifies that because it was long ago. And yeah, Fubu and Fat Farm, they're long gone, but you still have, like I said, Off-White. You have Yeezy, like these are black-owned companies.
You're moving the goalpost.
He is.
You're
That's
moving the
facts.
goalpost.
He is moving the goalpost.
You're moving the goalpost. You said in 50 years.
Oh, come on.
You
Right.
said in 50
This is true.
years.
You reaching, bro. You reaching.
That's not true though. People
That is a reach. What?
You
It's not
said
a
in
reach.
50 years.
50 years.
What has
You said 50
transpired?
years.
This ninja went back to the late 80s.
No.
Late 80s, no. FUBU and Fat Farm, maybe they were started in the late 80s, but, you know, they went into the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, let's not do this.
This is crazy.
No.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it
but,
is.
But it's not as obvious. It's not where it was before. But the advancement that those four men.
Boom, boom, boom.
So 50 years,
I'm
you had
bravado.
on a FUBU jacket and some Carl Kanaj.
No,
And
listen.
for the billions that hip-hop make, I'm supposed to be content with that.
Well, it's not, again, Umar, he has his own scale of what's acceptable and acceptable answer to his question. The dude with the braids, all he mentioned was black people who have benefited from hip hop. Now, Umar, he did move the goalpost. Now it's, okay, you named something that was 20 years ago, and I'm not content with your answer. But there is a part with Umar that I'm going to agree with.
I didn't say be
No.
content. You asked
You
a
asked
question.
which
I
brands.
offered you.
Horrible
Yes.
answer. Give me something, a horrible answer.
Who decides
Horrible
war?
answer.
Who decides war? Literally having a line come out with H&M right now, and a black person owns that line.
You
That's
gave me
incorrect.
fashion. The
That's
first thing
incorrect.
out of your mouth was fashion.
I gave you fashion, and you started yelling over me.
What
But
else?
then also, then there's technological advancement. Podcasting, for example. Look at all the black people that now have access to jobs and ways to make.
Well, this is true. Ex-rappers like Joe Budden, guys like DJ Academics. Academics' entire platform is based on hip-hop. So, again, Umar can do the old theatrical animated thing and the yelling, but he's getting an answer to his question.
make money due to that. We're still talking about rap. We're still talking about cinema. We're still talking about these camera operators, these new people
Let
coming
me
up
make
with
it
new
real
way.
concrete for you.
I just made it concrete.
No, it wasn't. That was all bullshit.
No,
give
what
me,
you're
a
about to
relevant,
say-
give me a relevant institution that hip hop built in any community.
So now the questions change. Now that Umar has been proven wrong in his first assessment, give me one benefit that hip hop has had to black people in the 50 years that it's been around. And they gave him multiple benefits. They just gave him one benefit or a couple examples off the one string of fashion. They didn't get it fully into the podcasting. They didn't get it fully into the audio text. They didn't even get into the musicians and producers themselves. They just took one small sliver, fashion, named multiple companies. So now the question is, now that that's been answered, the question of Umar changes. Name me one institution that's been built as a result of hip hop. And hip hop is an institution itself. Let's go back and hear his question.
No,
Give
what
me a
you're about to
relevant.
say.
Give me a relevant institution that hip hop built in any community, anywhere in America
I
in
just told
50
you.
fucking years.
I just told you.
No, you didn't.
I just told you concrete. People that would not
Oh, no. The question's changed. So we have to recognize that the question is now changed.
have.
I didn't say
You're gonna cut me
individual.
off again.
goalpost has
I said
moved.
You're gonna cut me off again.
institution.
I said people.
Where's the bank
Are
of hip
people-
hop for the black community?
So yeah, so like I said earlier, Umar is looking for an answer that not necessarily a correct answer, an answer that's going to resonate with him. So he wants to see a bank, a hospital of hip hop, or something of the sort. And I can't answer that question. I don't know if anybody who's been involved in hip hop has invested in banks, has invested in hospitals. I don't know that. So, and I think it's kind of unfair to ask this question. Just one, because he changed the goalposts, and two, if you really want to know the answer, you have to give people time to research. No one is just going to have this information off the top of their head.
The word people means not an individual. So I'm telling you, people that now of 50 years ago would not have had access to
You
work
dealing in
these
individualism. I ask you, what did they do for the community? You can't give me nothing because they ain't done
places. People
shit for
from the community can now work in a music industry that there was never going to be a space for them
What the
in.
fuck? That's individualism. That ain't helping us.
Well, it is helping us. I mean, hip hop has helped. Now, he's going to get to the point, Dr. Umar, to what he said at first. What is the sum benefit? What is the net benefit? And I think that's where me and Umar are going to agree. But he can't just move the goalposts like this in the conversation because it's dishonest. He's not actually looking for an answer. He's just looking to confirm his own belief. There's no banks, there's no hospitals, there's no schools. Therefore, it's not sufficient for me. Which, that's how you feel, then say that. But don't say there's been no benefit.
Bull Bullshit.
No.
Bull fucking shit.
No.
It's not helping us.
No. What's happening is virtual signaling. That's
Bullshit.
what's happening. Virtual signaling
Ain't
happening.
that shit. A few people could get jobs. Everybody can say that shit. Elon Musk got a couple black people on the payroll. That don't mean shit.
Elon Musk didn't come from black. He's not a black person.
My point is, you can get a job from anywhere, whether they black or not.
But now
That's
you're
not
getting a
unique
job.
benefit.
Now black
but
people.
But you're still
Go ahead.
talking about individualism, bro. A few people. You've been around for 50 years.
We talk about a few people. I mean, what that again? We got to contextualize this. A few thousand people, a few 10,000 people. Is that really a few? It just depends on how you contextualize it.
The most popular music genre in the world, billions and billions of dollars, and all you can tell me about is a few people can get jobs? That's bullshit when you look at the cost that the black community has had to pay for hip hop.
So now the question has changed again. Like when you debate these kind of people, we just have to recognize how the questions change. So now it's about the cost. First it was name one benefit that hip hop has had to black people. They answered this question. Then it changed to name one institution hip hop has built. And then he answers the question, which I actually don't think was a sufficient answer, but I don't expect people to know like, okay, Byron Daniels, these CEOs who were made money off of hip hop, what have they invested in? Maybe they have invested in a bank or a hospital. It just requires research. Or maybe even a white person who loved hip hop, got money off of hip hop, and then invested in certain things in black communities. It takes more research, So, but then the question then changed to the net benefit, the good versus the bad. So the questions changed 3 times, and I think this is where I'm going to agree with Dr. Umar.
A whole generation, 2-3 generations of black kids growing up thinking the best thing you can do is be a damn gangster.
I can't. That part I can't give you.
Yeah,
Does hip hop need accountability? Absolutely. Does hip hop need a Me Too movement? Overall, do we need to have things in place that make sure we respect women and women are safe working in these spaces? Absolutely. But will I sit here and trash hip hop and say in 50 years it's done nothing for the advancement of black people? I've given you multiple. You just won't accept them. I can't control what you accept.
Facts.
Master P.
Hip hop itself.
Hip hop itself is an institution. I said this.
Is an institution.
That's run by white people. What the fuck you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, when you say run by white people, yes. And again, I don't know if it's just white. They could be Indians, Asians. Again, it's this whole white versus. I met a girl like this in university. Everything was white versus black, as if no one else exists. And I asked her the question, like, everything's not black versus white. There are Indians, there are, Vietnamese. And her answer was, if you're not black, then you're white, which I said, okay, there's no conversation I can have with you. But yeah, hip hop, the people who control these huge conglomerates like UMG, what is the other major music conglomerate? There's like UMG, I think Universal. Yes, these are owned by non-black people. Correct.
About Jews own that shit. Fuck is you saying? That ain't no institution.
Jews can't own.
White people own that shit.
Jews can own the music business. They can't own hip hop.
Look at this shit.
They can't own hip hop.
Let's cut the blade a little thinner. Bullshit. They run it.
Listen.
They run it.
Yeah, but that wasn't the question. So again, if you're easily convinced by an animated argument, which I'm just not, I hear the content of what you're saying. But if you're easily fixated on like the animated and who can get the gotcha points and who can get louder, you're going to be fooled by this. But yes, we all know that black people as a majority do not own these Warner, Sony, UMG. And yeah, we all already knew black people don't own those, but that wasn't the initial question. The initial question was, I mean, as an audience, I've said it like 5 times. The initial question was, what is black people, or what has hip hop done for black people in 50 years? Now it's changed to Jews run the hip hop industry. Again, don't be fooled by these yelling arguments and these super animated. Just listen to the content of what they're saying.
The Jews can sell the product. The Jews can own the money that goes out for advances. They can't own hip hop.
Go to law school. You would be a great attorney.
Who don't?
They tell you what to do and how to get there.
Who is telling you what to wear?
Who
is
own all the
telling you
major hip hop
what to?
stations? White people. Who own all the record labels? White people.
We are in America, which is owned by majority white people. We are.
So again, this is devolved into a white people argument when the question was, what has hip hop done for black people in 50 years? And the second question was, what institutions has hip hop built? When hip hop itself is already an institution and it's employed hundreds of thousands of black people over the past 50 years, from not just from the musicians, the rappers themselves, but from the producers and then the labels, and then every individual person has their family that they help and they build their community. Someone like Nipsey Hussle, who was in the process of building a whole block. He already, pretty much owned a lot of the stores on that, strip and on Slauson and Crenshaw, but he was in the process of buying apartments and housing. This is just one rapper who built like his community based not solely on hip hop music, because he had a t-shirt store also, but the t-shirt store was helped funded via hip hop music, and they sold shirts that related to hip hop. Well, they sold the Slauson Tees shirts at first, but then they started selling the Marathon shirts, which the Marathon is a hip hop mixtape. So that's just one example. Yes, even though the Jews, and I say it because everyone's scared. Like, I don't even like saying, even though Jewish people are, the heads of these companies, these major record labels like Lucien Grange, who was the other guy? Robert Kinkle, and Rob Stringer is the CEO of Sony Music Group, I believe. There are still black people benefiting. And when Nipsey Hussle employs that whole block, and he buys that fish market, he buys that t-shirt store, he buys that cell phone store, he employs black people. He has homeless people, he has people, he employs his homies. And that's not even counting what he's doing in music and all the jobs he's providing there. And that's one person. That doesn't count for someone like Joe Budden, who in hip hop, he might not have excelled, but he's able to go and do podcasting because of his hip hop career, where he talks about hip hop, and then he employs other people, audio engineers, to do his podcast, cameramen, his managers, and then he has other podcasts with black people who spring up under that, and they hire their people like Need to Know. This is an example of hip hop as an institution employing hundreds of thousands of black people. Now Umar's question is switched to something, white people, something, the Jews.
We are statistically only represented by 13%.
Because you do know there's Asians in America, and their number is lower than yours, and they own their own shit.
Right.
So don't give me the fact
but
that
they also weren't brought over here and changed.
It don't matter, bro.
Asians own their own ish. What does he mean? Like they own stores in the hood? Yes, but so do black people. And so do black immigrants, African immigrants. I'm trying to think of something like, I don't know, an institution that Asians have built in America, such as how black people have helped build the institution of hip hop. I can't name anything that Asians as an institution culturally have built that I can use an example of, they own this. I only think of individual things like stores, nail shops, food, restaurants.
We're $2 trillion people.
There's
Why
no
we
way.
can't have our own?
Dr. Umar.
Why hasn't
Dr.
hip-hop
Umar,
done more independent?
There's no way you can continue to keep moving the goalposts.
Right.
Like this. There's no way.
Right.
There's no way we can. There's no way we can keep talking about. There's no way we can keep talking about PTSD the way you describe it, and then say.
Okay, so I'll get to the point that I think Umar was trying to get to. Hip hop, is it a net? This is the original question. The sum of it, is it beneficial? And I actually think when you look at the net cause and effect of hip hop, all the good with all the bad, which is more? Is it a net good or a net bad? I actually think hip hop has been a net negative. I think it's been net bad. I think it's done more harm than it's done good. And I know that might shock a lot of people, but I don't think it was that way at first. Like when hip hop, first came around, maybe them first 15, 20 years, the early hip hop, Grandmaster Caz, Grandmaster Flash, even the Run DMC, Rakim era. I think it was a net positive back then. It was artistic expression, and it was a cultural revolution. But I think over time, and as hip hop becomes co-opted and becomes profitable, I think it's become a net negative. Hip hop is very influential, And the music, I think, especially on a mainstream level, influences the youth in a negative way. Now, this is where I'm going to sound like a complete old fart. Because when I was younger, if you were to tell me like, oh, certain things like music, video games, it negatively affects young people, I would say no. It's up to the parenting. It's up to the parents. Especially like when I was younger, a game called Grand Theft Auto San Andreas came out, and there was this huge controversy over it and how it's corrupting the youth. And of course, I was on the side of, it's just a game. It doesn't matter. It's up to the parents. If the kid was violent, because of Grand Theft Auto, they were going to be violent regardless. As I'm now older, I actually disagree with my old take. And it relates to hip hop in that these like things like music, TV, video games, they're cultural pinpoints that affect us. They're cultural pinpoints that affect especially young, impressionable people. So when you have a video game that's super violent, movies, TV shows that are super violent, super sexual, and also music like that, all this is going to affect kids, even if they're well parented. They see it on their phones, their friends have it, they go, it penetrates and it's very impressionable among impressionable minds. So I think hip hop is similar. Like, especially you listen to the radio today or mainstream music, a lot of it's poison. A lot of it's just garbage. There's no message. Like early hip hop, there was messages. I mean, one of the first huge hip hop songs was called what? The Message. And even when hip hop underwent its fun phase, like the, Beastie Boys and the Kid and Plays, it's just fun. And then hip hop has had its constructive phases like the Native Tongues. Now I think, after gangster rap, after drill rap, flossing, bling bling era rap, I think it's become a net negative. And I say this accepting all the good that hip hop has done, which Dr. Umar does not accept the good that hip hop has done as enough. He doesn't accept it. It doesn't satisfy his idea of what's good. I say this with accepting the good that hip hop has done. Although I think it's done good, I think it's done worse. Especially like since the 90s, the amount of murder, sexualization, all these things play a part in why I think, in the lyrics, in the videos, all these things play a part in why I think hip hop is actually, to this point, a net negative. I don't think it was always like that. But, after 50 years, I would say it's a net negative. And I think that's what Dr. Umar is kind of trying to get at, but he doesn't, because that was his first question. What is the sum benefit? The net benefit of hip hop? And I think based on his answer, he's like, yeah, they've done some things in like fashion, and even though he's downplaying it, but he's like, look at what's come as a result negatively. I think that's what he's trying to get at, but he just doesn't want to lose on any point that he's mentioning. So when he says name one benefit of hip hop and then they name some stuff, like instead of saying what he actually means, he's kind of like not trying to lose any part of the argument, which is it's by definition a bad faith argument. So that's what I think. What do y'all think? Is hip hop a net positive or a net negative? Net. I mean, we're not just saying it's only been bad, but is it more good than bad or more bad than good after 50 years? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Top5rapwebsite.com. Peace.